Since it was first revealed in the Peloton Homecoming just a few weeks ago, the Strive Score has been implemented into all of the Peloton classes. And this score is a personal metric to help evaluate your own effort. It gives you a score based on how long you spend in each of your heart rate zones. So the base of this score gives you 3 points for every 10 minutes you spend in zone 1, but it gets multiplied further and further as you go up in heart rate zones, capping out at around zones 4 and 5 with an 8 times multiplier. So the highest Strive score that's really possible is 24 points every 10 minutes. I think a lot of us are still a bit confused about how to look at this score or how it can actually help us, but I think that's because the Strive score is honestly not rolled out all the way yet. There's a very large and obvious component of the Strive score that's completely missing, and I think will be coming soon, but I'll talk a bit more about that at the end of the video. But because the Strive score is based entirely on your heart rate zones, and your heart rate zones are based on an estimation of your maximum heart rate, I think it's in our best interest to have the most accurate maximum heart rate in our settings. And Peloton gives us an estimated max heart rate based on our age, but it is very inaccurate. So I want to give you a few methods that you can use to get a more accurate maximal heart rate number that you can use for your Strive score. To those of you new to the channel, my name is Colin, and this is Connect the Watts, where we cover connected fitness news, reviews, tips, and guides. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos. So unfortunately, Peloton uses the old 220 minus your age formula to determine your maximum heart rate. And this formula has a lot of problems. First, it's 50 years old and was originally designed and proposed with no legitimate scientific data. It is extremely inaccurate for a lot of people, and I'm still bewildered why it's suggested by groups like the CDC, American Heart Association, and Mayo Clinic when it's so deeply flawed. So if you want a more accurate Strive score, what are some ways you can get a more accurate maximum heart rate? The easiest method is just to use a more updated and accurate formula. So instead of taking the 220 minus your age formula that Peloton uses, you could try using either the Tanaka or the Fairburn equation. Now for the Tanaka equation, you multiply 0.7 times your age and then subtract that from 208. And for the Fairburn equation, that actually has a different one for men and women because men and women have different maximum heart rates, and men and women's max heart rates tend to drop at different degrees as we age. And so for Fairburn, the formula for women is you multiply your age times 0.63 and then subtract that from 201. And then for men, you multiply your age by 0.8 and then subtract that from 208. And if any of that seems complicated or you just don't want to do any math, I provided links in the description below for you to be able to find the calculators to do it yourself. But again, because these are formulas and because max heart rate can vary substantially from person to person, they can still be really inaccurate. In fact, even for these more updated formulas, for 5 to 10% of people, they can be off by as much as 24 beats per minute. So my suggestion is you put in the dirty work and find that max heart rate yourself. And there's a few ways to go about doing this, but I'm just going to share with you what I find to be most effective. First off, I do need to say that this is not a suggestion that you should, especially if you have any heart conditions. You should always consult with your doctor if you're unsure and never just listen to the advice of somebody from the internet. That out of the way, you first need to decide what you want to test your max heart rate on, because you can test it on your Peloton bike, or you can test it on the treadmill or just running. Because on the bike, you're generally going to have a lower maximum heart rate than you will with running or boot camps or any multimodality exercise. And this is because with biking, you tend to use less muscles and you have less heart displacement, meaning your heart doesn't move up and down, forward and side as much. And so if a lot of your exercise is running around, doing multimodality things like boot camps or the strength training, then you probably should test this out on a run. But if most of what you do is cycling, then you should test your max heart rate on the bike, as that'll be most accurate for you. So the first thing you need to do, regardless of how you're going to test it, is you need to warm up really, really well. I suggest a 10 to 15 minute warm up. If you're on the bike, the easiest thing to do is go to the Power Zone category and find an FTP warm up ride. That'll get you really warmed up and ready to go. Then once you're warmed up, you're going to be doing intervals of 2 minutes of work with a 30-second rest between each. And if you've done Power Zone training and tested your FTP test before, my suggestion is that you start the first 2-minute interval in Power Zone 4. Then you're going to rest 30 seconds or take it pretty easy. And then you're going to do another 2-minute interval, but you're going to add a little bit of resistance so that your power output goes up at least 10 to 15%. Then you're going to take another 30 seconds off, increase the resistance, and do it again. and again and again and again until you can't do it anymore or your heart rate just isn't going to go up anymore, at which point you should have a pretty good representation of your true max heart rate on the bike. For running, it's the same thing, but I do suggest you find a steep hill to do this on, as it'll be easier to find that true max heart rate, and then you just walk down the hill during your rest intervals. And if you want to be really, really accurate, you do this same test multiple times over a period of several weeks or several months, as your max heart rate can change day to day based on a variety of factors like your current stress levels, your sleep, your previous exercise, and so on. And once you have your new, more accurate max heart rate, either from testing it yourself or from using a better, newer formula, you can then go into your profile settings in your Peloton to update your max heart rate there, at which point it'll change all of your heart rate zones and thus make your Strive score a lot more accurate. And while a more accurate Strive score may seem a little pointless right now in its current form, this information could be very useful if taken in the context of your entire day, your entire week, your month. If only Peloton would release some sort of wearable that could help you do that, similar to the Whoop band and its popular strain score. Let me know what you think. If you think the Peloton Strive band is coming soon, or if you found a new max heart rate, either by using a different formula or for testing it yourself, let me know in comments, and make sure to like this video if it helped you in any way. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Stay fit, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.